All right, DK, you're going to show us around your home studio.
So,
let's see what we got.
This is where the magic happens. We have the DK studio, which is
Let me just do a full pan here.
This is a brand new setup as of a week and a half ago. So I really only finalized my last project in here and bounced it out and got the tempo changes. But everything, this is like the new spot, and this is where I've made like pretty much all of my music ever for everything. We have my mic here that I just sort of record. This is a brand new keyboard that I got. My KRKs, my DJ stand with the small laptop has the DJ stand there, so I get like elbow problems if you just hit it all the time.
Well, the ergonomics is super important. Yeah, you don't want to be crouched in on it.
And now with this TV, you gotta look up a little bit, but it helps my posture a little bit. I even have a posture thing. So to help me in the studio.
Right, so are you feeling it sometimes in long days? Let me
definitely.
We got a lot of guitars.
We do. So this is an Ovation. This is my first electric acoustic guitar
Let's switch sides here.
That I started playing at Monkey Bar. So it has sort of that curved back. It has sort of sound. There's a pick in here because shadow camera.
You gotta give us a little something.
Oh,
you gotta give us a little taste.
I don't know. Is this tuned? Is the question. Yeah. A tornado flew around my room before he came. Excuse the mess you made. It usually doesn't rain in Southern California, much like Arizona. My eyes don't shed tears before they roam. When I'm thinking about you, girl, you know. I've been thinking about you, girl, you know. I've been thinking about you. Do you think about me still? Do you not think so far ahead? 'Cause I've been thinking about forever. Oh, do you not think so far ahead? 'Cause I've been thinking about forever. Oh. So as you can see, it's difficult to play without having a strap because of the way that it sounds, and you have to hold it sort of like this. Whereas an electric guitar, this is my Hammer XT, my first guitar when I got is 12. They don't make these anymore, but it's a take on the old Explorers. So I learned how to play guitar on this. I don't really play it. I like the way that the shape is, but it's hard to play out after a long time. And then over here, this is my dad's Roland XP30. So in this, I don't use this too often because there's so many sounds and there's a lot of things that you can do over here. And then when it gets to an aspect of where I'm mixing a lot or I'm producing for other people, it's hard to just like put this in, but sometimes I like going back to this because it goes back to my roots of like being able to. I learned how to play piano actually from producing, so I've only been playing probably like 5 years. I'm not like excellent, but I do, I'm good at that. And I love Logic, love it to death. I think it's the premier DAW, but I am the outlier. It's like being a Yankees fan in Massachusetts when it comes to the music, when everybody's either FL Studio, Pro Tools, or Ableton.
All right, so we're sitting here with DK. We're in the living room. Organized Sound Podcast, welcome back. Really special thing that we're doing today. It's kind of like a hybrid. We've listened to your new album, Anomaly.
Yeah.
We were over in the studio. You gave us a little tour. And it sounded good. It's sounding exciting. I think the first thing I want to talk about is this idea of genre, because something that you said is like, I don't really know anyone doing what I'm doing. And when I was listening to it, I definitely kind of felt this like Canadian Toronto sound to it, because there's some very just moody stuff in there, but it is, to your point, very much your own music and your own experience, because you put so much into it sonically, and then you put so much into it from a content and material perspective. So let's talk about Anomaly and the concept of a project like this.
So so when I started off the year, it was like a situation where we'd start of 2020, I was working, my month of January, I worked 34 days in a row. So from like the end of December when I came home from my headline show to February 1st, I had worked 34 days in a row and was working a ton, just trying to get my money right so that I could make these connections with music. Fast forward 3 weeks later after that, everything that I had that I worked for in Atlanta fell apart like that. I had a girl, fell apart, had friends. We, dispersed and one of my friends moved. We were all moving and then COVID. So it was like I just took all this time to work so hard to go to Atlanta and move to get to where I need to be, and then the pandemic happened. So obviously you can't predict that. But I was at a fire with my roommates from college. I call them the Echo Boys, for instance. So if you ever hear that, that's what I call them. And I was there, and my buddy Goose's girlfriend, Katrina, was saying something that, like, talking about an anomaly. We were talking about my music, and she'd mentioned, like, you're an anomaly, or saying, she was like, that'd be a good name for an album track. I literally was like, boom, that's dope. Sandman Beats, he's a great kid from East Long Meadow producer, sent me a pack. He sends me like 3 a week. Sent me a pack, I heard this beat, I was like, holy moly, let me just try it. And then that's where the song Anomaly came from. And then over time, from the end of August around my birthday until October, I only made the album in 60 days flat. So this whole project was made in 60 days, really just worked from, August and October to really make this project. And it sort of came to be that I was like, wait a minute, like, I feel like I'm a very throw it at the wall kind of person. It's like, all right, I'm going to make this type of song, throw it out to the public, what's the reaction? Mm-hmm. So I was like, what if I did an album that has these transitionary things that all flows in together, but what if I made it in like, a way that it's about me in some way, but it's also bringing some things into my roots. And a big thing of that was in my roots is sort of theater and musicals and acting. That was where I really got my first start with music. It never was like my main thing that I wanted it to be the focal thing that I did, because I always wanted this to be the focal thing. Even when I was making music, even when I was singing in high school and, in college, like I always wanted this, what has came to be now, to be the thing I do. But the only way that you can get it in some ways as far as singing and opportunities is through musicals and things like that. So I was like, what if I took a step back, looked at everything that's happened to me in my life, and crazy stuff that's happened to me in the last 4 years since I started making music, and let's make like a fictional story about it. Like real things inspired by real things, but it's a storyline. What if I made it where the listener's hearing it and it doesn't know what song's which? That's where I sort of came in with the thing Anomaly, and it's sort of the whole thing is I feel as an artist that maybe people don't understand what I do. Maybe they aren't necessarily fans of the singing type of stuff, but on a local level, and even, I feel on a complete level, there's tons of music. I feel like I make a kind of music that I am not a clone of anybody. I don't feel like, you hear a lot of people like, oh, that's a Cardi clone, that's an Uzi clone, that's a, a Drake clone or a Future clone or whatever. I've never really been called that anything. I get, this song sounds similar to this sort of genre, but I never get really like, you're just like one person. Mm-hmm. Which I think is something as an artist you try to strive away from, because you want to be individualistic when you're by yourself, and to show that you can be that individual artist. So that's sort of where the whole concept came from the entire project. And the first song, I was like, wow, this is dope. Let's just sort of take it together.
Yeah, so we looked at that music video Anomaly, and you play like the 4 different characters, but they're really just 4 different pieces of yourself.
Yeah, so
talk about filming that.
You gotta change this and that. I won't change. I don't care. I never really did. I'm gonna be me, and that's just that. Anomaly. You can't copy me. And if you try to do, you'll fail. I hope you know by now that you can never ever get to me. No, 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 no. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do music videos now, and I've done the music videos where I've sat in front of a car and have just like, sang and rap to it. People aren't gonna respond to that because it's the same thing. And from a common eye, I don't necessarily look like the average artist. So having that seems like a disadvantage from on paper. how do I make that disadvantage of not looking like the image on paper as the sleek artist? I have, I'm bald, I'm big, I look like a football player, all these different things that I've been told or I've been called may seem as a disadvantage. How do I make that into an advantage? So the whole concept of Anomaly is sort of just like really just being myself and really finding myself as a person. But there's a wrestling intro in the very beginning of the song. The reason for that is because it introduces me. I'm waking up from the dream. I'm, trained to be a pro wrestler in real life. Then I go and wake up, shave my head, and put on my clothes. Then I am out. I do that every morning. I go, wake up, like everything is real. Then, right now I'm a substitute teacher. So that's where the teaching aspect comes into play. You have, the salesman. I was a salesman right out of college. You have, the Easter egg from the last video. So if you saw in the last music video, in the Come On Over video, I'm in the tux, so I'm impressing in the beginning of that video. And then we had a date at this place called Pinch and Point. Well, that date that was had at Pinch and Point is also the place where I had the last music video, If I Lived in the Past, before that in 2019. So everything is sort of like in, perspective into that. And it's just sort of being like, I'm an anomaly, you can't copy me, with all these different characters and all this different stuff. And you can see in the last part of it where there's the guy in the tuxedo, or, Lex. It's the guy from the Come On Over video that said, all right, well, this, in the figurative mind of it, this girl didn't want to be with me, she passed up on a husband material. So that's sort of where that comes in. So I really tried to take everything like in theme and just bring it together and sort of, oh wait, this is all a story. Like, this whole aspect of a story album is sort of bringing a bigger picture to the fact that I've been doing this with metaphors and different things in my project for years now, but it's more of a grandiose, way of doing it.
Yeah, so it really feels like, yes, you fleshed everything out. Since Silhouette, I actually just listened to kind of recently. So this feels like a lifestyle album.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about, we'll tell the story a little bit from my perspective, right? This album is about you and your life as a performer a little bit. So we're seeing you as an artist going to his shows, and things happen at the shows. I don't want to give too much away, but the story revolves around that and a girl that you were involved with being at the show. So I want to talk about a lot of the kind of noises that you had in this video. There's interludes that are just conversations and background noises and things like that. How do you get that audio done? How do you record that?
So sometimes I'll just record audio like outside, or sometimes they have the free royalty banks to like find that stuff, but I sort of make it like unique to me. There was a lot of digging and searching through videos and samples of things of that nature when it comes to sort of finding that out. Getting all of the different sounds and things. You can go outside with a mic or on your phone and, go and try to, figure it out, or, make a little sound like that. But a lot of it, there's stock sounds and like different things, people record different stuff, but it's not, it's these background sounds that you don't know. It's the way that I put these background sounds. It's like, I'll give a little bit of an example. Like, I wake up in a scene in the song. Like, I'm like, basically, I'm like getting out of bed, so you hear me getting out of bed, pulling out my phone. There's little certain things and idiosyncrasies. So basically just searching through YouTube and searching through free sample banks to find these sounds to sort of encapsulate everything together to make the project more cohesive and make sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, the attention to detail really stands out because you just feel like you're there, especially with like the people chatting in background. You have your album has ambiance. Did you want to talk about how there's kind of the loop that exists?
So another theme of the project, it felt like that no matter what I did for the longest time, whether it be in Atlanta, UMass, Western Mass, anywhere that I was, it was sort of this focal thing of, I felt like I was going through life and that people sort of, it felt like on paper a lot of people like me, and I feel like that's the case, but I also feel like from what I want, and it got to a point where music was my therapy to then music was my life. So music's always my therapy, and that's how I really get like my feelings out, but it got to the point where it was my life. So sort of making that my life is how I want to be. I don't go and boast like I am, but I wake up every day in the mindset of I want to be the best artist. I want to be the best thing possible. But I also want to be the best person possible. I want to leave a legacy that if I ever was to be the person from my area to make it, that I would, leave a legacy behind, like, oh, he was a good person. But going back to the album, it felt like, no matter what I did, I was just getting the shit kicked out of me. Whether it was in relationships, working multiple jobs, moving around, being uneasy, being unhappy, doing favors for people, traumatic events that sort of, stressed me out to these high degrees, while all still trying to pay the bills and, make music every day from the trauma and all the bullshit that I went through. The reason why it loops together is because that is an outside perspective on everything that happened in these, since I started making music at 20. It's a loop of the bullshit that like kept coming on. It's like, you're going to wake up every day, you realize you're an anomaly, but then you're going to go through the same things with friends and relationships, they falter, and then you feel like you just need to leave. And I kept leaving, and always came back. So it was sort of this whole thing of like this ongoing loop was the whole theme of it. And that's why I did all the transitions and the sounds and everything. It was just like a consistent loop of the same shit, different day.
Your hands and kiss your feet. I got no time to waste on you. Every time I hear your name, I'm like, I don't fall for fools. But girl, tonight I'm digging you, cause you're all I need, you're all I need.
There's like 10 vocal layers.
You're all I need, you're all I need. You're all I need, you're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need, you're all I need. You're all I need. Oh,
Now, it's raining, but if you look over here, this is Pension Point under the bridge.
Yeah.
So there's been videos shot there before, but I shot If I Lived in the Past, which is like all the little things about my past life. Shot it there, and I shot the Come On music video date down there. So that's where we go from here. And this is where I basically grew up.
So what was it like growing up? What do you remember early childhood that you're pretty nostalgic for?
It's kind of crazy because early childhood wasn't really the best for me at all.
You were saying.
Yeah, it wasn't, it was a thing where, and I still have this issue to this day. I just think I grew up and matured and like knew how to interact with people more, but I was definitely like very socially awkward, and I always wanted to be the kid that, and I still do, I always want to be the kid that's loved, right? And if you don't love me, at least you respect me. But it just felt like these kids just didn't, understand me. Like I was always the big awkward goofy kid, like I am the big awkward goofy man now. Yeah, it's like people were like, why does like Western Mass not have, or Massachusetts or New England not have like a crazy music scene? Is because a lot of this area is a lot of generations and generations of people not moving and staying in the same place. Like if you've been in Western Mass, you've probably been in Western Mass here for 60 to 100 years.
Yeah.
You stay. So that mentality grows because one person like me tries to do music or tries to stray from the path and do something. I don't really rock with that. I don't really want to do that. Now, this is China Star.
We're here.
This is the focal point. I hope that we can sit down right there in the little there's like a little area we can sit down. They should have known me by order, so They should know me by the way I walk in.
Oh,
Let's
boy.
see if they recognize me. I get the same thing every time. I wonder if she. Nah. And I'm not saying it because honestly, this is like I really didn't hit my stride until late 2019. Like
right. You realize what time does once you see the results.
Once you see the results. But I'm saying like you will get there if you keep pushing. Like I put out, like I said, I put out. I think it's 14 songs in 2018 accounted on all platforms. 2019 I put 19 songs on all platforms. And by the 17th I'll have 16 songs on all platforms in 2020 minus like all the loosies I'll put on SoundCloud. But marketed well releases, it's been, 40, 50 songs in general in my whole music career. That's a lot, that's a lot of music that I'm pumping out. It's an EP and an album with 3 singles that I've had in literally since January to November. So that's a lot of content that a lot of people are producing. Can people have the time to produce that content? There's not a ton of studios. A lot of people come to me for studio time. There's not a lot of there. So there's a whole bunch of aspects that I really think that, if we have, hunkering down, but the one good thing that we do have is that at the end of the day, people complain about Western Mass all the time, but like the people that like fuck with the music scene, like we all rock with each other. Like everybody rocks with each other.
Everybody's gotten on the same page.
Everybody's gotten on the same page. We show love for the most part to each other. If it's good, it's good. We'll retweet it. Like we all have that there. But if we just get those people to keep pushing out the content and pushing out the content in a well-marketed release with emails sent to the right people and, networking to the same people, if we sort of influx that all together and show that there is a scene and then show these shows once shows come back, that's when the scene will get to the national level. Because it's here. The potential is here. It's just the back burner business part of it is what needs to just get to the point.
To the next level of ratchet it up.
Yeah. As far as the business side of things, that is where, I'll go on any of the sites where I found, a dope artist. I remember I found Young Pinch on Elevator back in my freshman year of college, and he was like,
oh, love him.
Yeah, when he came out with Rock With Us, and that was a huge, his
That's still one of his biggest songs.
But it came out on Elevator, so you go on Elevator and, what are these people posting, right? You go and you find the writer, you read the article, because you really need to look at these people like their art. You need to give them just as much as a chance as these people go about it. So what I do is I go and I read these articles. I find what these curators, because there's very few of them, mind you.
It's a small
circle, and most of them, like the 500 to 1,000 people in the music industry in the United States, they all know each other.
Correct.
Like one way or the other, they all know of each other. The A&Rs, the managers, the writers, the people, the legit people that are backing these artists. They all know each other. Especially that Clubhouse app that just came out during quarantine. That's a huge app. That's literally just music industry central. So, getting involved and having that one person focal point, my best friend Ian, who I've been friends with since 14 now, my manager, him being that person to, speak upon me and all this, and, the way he carries himself, the way he is professionally, the way he, looks and acts, that's essential even for me to have. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to have that, but just having those people to find that little stuff for you and to find those emails, even just saying like, send us your music, people will tweet, drop a link. Every single solitary link.
That engagement on those type of things are crazy.
And when you hear someone's music, like if you really, really fuck with it, like if you're like, wow, this is crazy, retweet, comment, and like it. Like there is no shame of doing that. Obviously you have to there's the look of following a bunch of people because it just looks like you're just following a bunch of people. I wouldn't say go follow a bunch of people that you don't rock with or just like to boost engagements. That's not the way to do it. But going through tweets and Instagrams being like, yo, this is fire, and just putting people on, you don't have to follow them, you don't have to do all this stuff, you can just post a story of them, right? Boom. Right there's your engagement.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Listen.
Yeah, just a special meal, white rice with large crab rangoon.
I'm gonna need a minute.
Do you mind if we sit there?
You want to eat here?
Yeah, right here.
Okay, only one table. First one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
For you.
All right, so we talked about your childhood, we talked about Agawam. Talk to me about the music scene that you are coming into and how you've seen it develop.
So it's kind of crazy to see how it developed because I felt like I was like a huge, part of it in the aspect of when the music scene came out, there was really only like a few people. There's really only like, Dylan, Philtown, Austin Fair, Big Drip, Chris Lombardi, Matt Maratia. For a long time, those were like the only people that really were doing music. And now over time, you have all these different artists. But it was, when I first started doing music in the Western Mass scene, I wasn't really like, there wasn't a lot of artists like that I feel like are like legit putting out a lot of music, doing it the right way, out there, So coming into the music scene, I definitely had an edge because of my dad and because of the connects I had at UMass. So with that being said, I tried to get us shows and do anything that we could possibly do to get these shows and hold that. Held a Western Mass Bash in 2017 at Hawks and Reed when Hawks and Reed had just opened up, and Ben Goldshire is a very, very, very huge part of helping Western Mass people in the music scene.
Oh yeah.
So he's helpful. Marty Fullwood and Agawam, last year we had a show at the Fitness First in Feeding Hills, and that was great in and of itself. So just coming into the own as far as that, I've really not only tried to help people as far as, musical things or mixes or beats or anything like that, but I really have tried to hold shows. Like, you can ask people, like I've held shows, I've promoted for shows, I've really organized things like that.
Okay, so walk us through the order here.
So, this is a China Star Agawam. There's a China Star Chicken Bait, not the same. China Star Agawam crab rangoon. It's super hot, but I have to do the red dippy sauce as my father. It's a sweet and sour, but it's red dippy sauce.
Let's get that inside there.
When this interview has like millions, because it's like one of the first behind the DK interviews.
Yeah.
Inevitably blew up. I want you to know that this is the best Chinese food, maybe even the best food you'll ever have in Western Mass on a national level. Anyway, I eat these crab rangoons all day. Now, this is my cheat day, and I knew that I was talking to him today.
I set it up that way.
I set my diet up. Perfectly. I've been eating chicken and rice, but today, this is my focus on this.
And we gotta see the plate here.
This, because of COVID, they're not doing plates, but this is the special meal white rice. You got your beef teriyaki, your chicken fingers, and your white rice. Pretty simple. $4.50 order. This right here, all this right here under $10, and it's the best food that I'll ever eat, honestly. So.
All right, DK, you took us around. We had a really awesome day. We checked out China Star, some really good eats there. Sign us out here.
So thank you to Organized Sound for doing this today. You can follow me on all socials on Twitter and Instagram at @_D with 5 Ks at the end. That's @_D with 5 Ks at the end. My new album Anomaly is coming out on November 17th, out everywhere. And thank you guys so much for following me around.
Awesome. Thank you. And we're signing out.
Signing off.